Another week, another central bank policy decision, and that means that when it comes to our sentiment study, probably best that we take a look at another FX pair. Hello everyone, Monty here, market analyst at IG, and this time around, we're taking a look at GBP USD. So let's go ahead and get started with the IG client sentiment, and then after we'll take a look at institutional sentiment. But week on week, we're looking at, they started at heavy buy, 66%. It started last week, they're still majority buy, they're still in heavy buy territory, and they've taken up to 71% at the start of this week, though, as of publishing, started to pull back just a little bit as some of those fresh longs get enticed into closing out because we had a little bit of a bounce off the lows, but also some fresh shorts, I should say more importantly, fresh shorts initiating that's causing some of that buy buys to pull back. That means anticipating that there might be some further pullback. What about when it comes to COT speculators? This is out of the CFTC released last Friday, positioning as of last Tuesday. Also majority buy, also heavy buy territory, but in this case, opposite retail traders, in this case, pulling back a little bit from 67% to 66%, not because there was a drop in longs, but because there was an even larger increase in short positions, as you can see over there. But the best part, of course, is mapping all this onto the chart to see exactly how they got there. And very, very, very similar to what we saw with Euro USD. In this case, you can see that it's a story of COT speculators throughout this period in majority buy territory, whereas retail traders were majority sell, and then as price dropped, as the pound dropped against the greenback, shorts getting enticed into closing out, longs initiating, and shifting to majority buy territory. The dotted line, blue dotted, that's IG client sentiment. Green dotted, that's COT speculators. And you got to look at the left axis, the percentages there, that's as percent long. So blue dotted, again, blue dotted at say 32% means that they're buy 32%, which means they're sell 68%, which means they're majority short 68%. So in this case, the blue dotted line, that red line over here is great to let us know exactly when they've shifted from majority sell to majority buy. And so whenever they're below, they're majority short. Whenever they're above, they're majority buy. You can see COT speculators, majority buy this whole time. It's very similar, as we saw with Euro USD, though the buy is not as heavy as what we saw with the Euro at some points, some data points. Whereas you look at IG client sentiment for the pound, there it is, majority sell buys, sells getting out, longs initiating, and moving, generally speaking, moving into majority buy territory. Here you can see that when price recovered, you saw the shorts get out, you saw the longs get out and go, this is our chance, and then afterwards it continued to move lower. So I want to just to show you guys the similarity. This is what we saw with Euro USD last time we did our sentiment study, and you can see that over here, very similar story, right? COT speculators already were majority buy territory, even higher. They were an extreme buy, whereas, and here's retail sentiment going from majority short to majority buy territory. But I want to take things out a little bit further to the weekly time frame. And this will help show a little bit slight difference between what's happening with the euro as well as with the pound. I'm not talking about when it comes to client sentiment, actually quite similar. Rather, when it comes to COT speculators. So let's go to map sentiment once more onto the chart. And once again, to make things very easier for us to see and clear, let's go put that red line right there, 50%. Again, dotted line below means that they, whether it's blue dotted for IG client, COT speculators green dotted, that means that they're majority short, whereas when it goes above, they're majority buy. And you can see that COT speculators, unlike with Euro USD, they were majority buy this entire time, positioning for further gains. When it comes to COT speculators, they were actually not in majority buy territory for the pound. They shifted in around the beginning of the second quarter of this year is when they shifted into majority buy territory, and they've been very cautious for the most part, with the exception of this move over here, very cautious in terms of adding to that majority buy. So they were usually a moderate majority buy territory, and prior to that in relatively moderate majority sell territory. A lot of you are wondering, why is that the case? Let's go ahead and pull up IG's trading platform so you can get a better look. We're looking at GBP USD, and that's because of the squeeze that we had over here. A lot of them positioned for further moves lower. It's not uncommon that whenever you look at COT speculators, they're usually positioning for the long term. They're not as quick to take profit, and they usually have a bit of a margin. So they position a certain way. They go with the momentum. Sometimes it's a bit of that snowball effect where, the snowball going down the mountain, so they keep adding to the positions. And so it's one of those cases. And then when you see the price recovering, they were majority short, but that's because they'd initiate at much better, at healthier levels. And then you saw them unwind, start to take profit, longs initiate, and then afterwards eventually at around, in April, at around this point over here, you started to see them shift towards majority buy, very cautious on the way up and starting to unwind a little bit. Meanwhile, when it comes to IG client sentiment, it's been a story of, every time that it would pull back, you saw longs close, you saw the shorts close out and the longs initiate. You had, again, that happened over here, again happened over here. And because it got tested, some were anticipating that they'd be able to hold a line over here, whether because of a bull trend channel, whether because we had, whether it's consolidatory movement that usually entices range traders into the market. Long story short, shorts have gotten enticed into closing out at key support levels, whereas longs have been initiating, and that's taken it into heavy buy territory just before the dual fundamental events this Wednesday and Thursday. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Good luck out there, and as always,